Topper Duffy had probably done some methamphetamine prior to getting to the house. Once they were at the house, Kaylee, Zach, and Topper all did some heroin. At some point, Topper Duffy starts to feel ill, not looking well. And during the trial, court heard evidence that Rene Denig got home around 5:30 p.m. That's what she told Lieutenant Sweat. She fixed herself a couple of drinks. Then Zach or Chip or Kaylee Denig, or maybe both of them, came downstairs at some point to tell Rene Denig that Topper wasn't doing well. And nobody called for help at this point. Individuals saw and believed that Topper Duffy was still breathing at that point. That maybe there was some foam that had come out of his mouth, but he seemed to be in trouble. And again, nobody's calling for help. Rene Denig doesn't want any emergency people coming to her house. And Zach, Kaylee, and Rene Denig carried Topper downstairs in the sheet, lay him on his back in the living room. At some point after that, Robin calls the Dollar General to talk to her friend, Gary Stimple, who's also a co-defendant in this case. And she tells him basically this guy is ODing, I need your help to get him out of the house. Not, I need you to take this guy to the hospital, or anything like that, just need this guy loaded up and out. What she didn't want was Ronald. As this court knows, that Topper Duffy was then loaded into the back of the ship's car. Denig helped hold the front door, Kaylee Denig helped hold the car door, and Gary Stimple and Zach Chip loaded him up in the car. Then they drove him to the Dollar General, which is a very short distance from the house, took him out of the car, and left him laying by a garbage dumpster inside the closed area. And that's where he died. We know that Gary Stimple called the police to fabricate story that he had been throwing out garbage, and he came across an individual, a person lying down by the garbage dumpster and was unresponsive. So the police got involved at that point. We also know from the trial that after the police arrived, Gary Stimple kept with that same story for a couple of occasions. And a short time after that, he apparently had a change of heart or something happened, and he decided to tell the police what had really occurred, and that was after he found out that Topper Duffy had died. No presence of livor mortis or rigor mortis, that he estimated that Topper Duffy had been dead maybe about 2 hours. Where that Topper Duffy's lungs were filling with fluid, and that tells us that he didn't die immediately in that household. This was an ongoing process over a few hours. Topper Duffy was taken out. There were actions taken by Miss Denig, along with the other 3, that led to his death. He took the heroin. He died from an overdose, but that's not what killed him in this case. It was reckless conduct of 4 individuals, including Miss Denig, that ultimately led to his death. Dr. Eisenstedt was very clear that based upon the autopsy of Mr. Duffy, that he could have survived if he got some medical attention. But that's not what happened here. Ms. Denig completely disregarded the substantial and justifiable risks of her action. She participated fully in getting Topper Duffy out of that house. It's because she didn't want any drama in that house, is what came out of the trial. This isn't a case about failure to do something. These people, including Ms. Denig, took actions in this case that ultimately led to Topper Duffy's death.
It is true that Topper has some responsibility for his decision to abuse drugs, especially those kinds of drugs. It is also true that Topper would have stood a chance, I don't know how great a chance, but a chance nonetheless of being alive if several people who had several chances to do something different, had done something different. It wasn't just Rene Denig that had an opportunity to change the outcome of this case. It was also CORLEY Denig who had an opportunity to change the outcome of this case. And it was Gary Stemple that had an opportunity to change the outcome of this case. And Zachary Shipp and Rene Denig. All of those people, at any point in time during this episode, Mr. Stemple holding his cell phone in his hands and deciding not to call 911. CORLEY and Denig and Zach Shipp deciding not to call 911. Rene Denig making the decisions that she made. All of those people had an opportunity to get this young man the help that he needed that could have saved his life. Now, the state chose not to present evidence of this at trial, but it is common knowledge, if you have any experience in this area, which I have almost 35 years of experience in this area, if you inject someone intravenously with Narcan who's overdosed, it takes 2 minutes for that drug to have a therapeutic effect on the person who has overdosed. It is a situation where there's shared responsibility and different levels of culpability based upon what each of the people did. Is Rene Denig going to get a sentence from this court that exceeds that of Zach Shipp, who gave Topper Duffy the heroin? No, I'm not going to do that, Mr. Cannell. On the other hand, I have to also say that having heard all of the evidence, the notion that Ms. Denig did all this to get Topper Duffy to the hospital is just simply false. And I don't believe it. That's not what happened in this case. I think the truth of what happened in this case is some undisputed facts are who called Gary Stemple? It was Rene Denig. Who is Gary Stemple? Gary Stemple is Rene Denig's coworker. Where did Topper Duffy end up? Topper Duffy ended up at Rene Denig's place of work, next to a dumpster at the business. Now, if Rene Denig was trying to get Topper Duffy to a hospital, then she should have called the hospital. She should have called 911. She could have called the sheriff's department. She did none of those things. And I think that the truth that I see in this case, despite what everyone wants to say about it or whatever spin they want to put on it, is that Rene Denig did what she did to conceal the criminal actions of her daughter and to protect her daughter from the consequences of her actions. She didn't want the authorities to come to her home and see that drug use had been going on at the home and that drugs were present and these actions were going on at her home. And I think the agenda was to protect her daughter from the consequences of her action. I think that those of us that do get caught in a situation should have the faith that doing the right thing will always protect us from the wrong consequences. And doing the right thing was to get help for Topper Duffy, not to call your coworker, not to refuse to call the authorities, and not to orchestrate a situation where he ended up. A place that shocks people's conscience. It shocks the conscience of the community when a young man ends up dead, laying next to a garbage can, instead of getting the help that might have saved his life. So I really think that the agenda here was, on Ms. Denig's part, was to conceal the criminal actions of her daughter and protect her daughter from the consequences of those actions. I just don't, I can't put any construction on these facts that makes sense other than that. I don't care what kind of situation you're thrust into. Someone is life is collapsing in front of you. You don't load them up in a car and have them be driven off. You get help, period. So that's the way the court looks at the facts of this case. And the bottom line to me, in terms of what sentence should be imposed, is that this action was undertaken to conceal criminal wrongdoing. I think Ms. Denig is right. Ms. Kaylee Denig is right. I feel like, she said, I feel like mom being involved in this is mostly my fault. I think she's going to have an opportunity to make up for that by being there for her and for her grandmother now. I think also that the jury in this case has rendered a verdict that Robin Denig is criminally responsible for the death of a human being, and I can't in good conscience put her on probation for that, nor can I impose the draconian sentence that the state has requested because of the shared responsibility in this case and because of what the state has asked the court to do and the other defendants in this case. So it will be the judgment sentence of this court, Ms. Denig, that you be sentenced to a term of 10 years, with 3 to be served in confinement, Department of Corrections. The balance will be served on probation. I wish you good luck, ma'am, in the custody of the ship.
Couple of things, Your Honor. Count 2, I assume murders. Count 1, and we would still like to ask for first offender. Something I'll be the
Court will grant first offender treatment.
And lastly, if I have my motion for a new trial ready, and I ask for a bond, pending the.
You need to schedule a hearing on that request, Mr. Wynn. Give the state an opportunity to gather whatever information it wants to present in opposition to it.
Okay.
All right. We're going to take a 15-minute recess at this time.